Admiral John Carter stood silently on the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship Defiant, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. The ship's sensors had detected something unprecedented. A massive fleet of vessels approaching the solar system at speeds that defied conventional physics. "Report," Carter ordered, his voice steady despite the tension gripping his chest. "Sir, we count over 300 vessels of unknown configuration," replied Lieutenant Annie Ross. "They've decelerated at the heliopause. Current trajectory suggests they're heading directly for Earth." Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel just 15 years earlier, in 2157. Their exploratory missions had ventured only to nearby star systems, finding nothing more advanced than microbial life. The United Nations Space Command had repeatedly assured Earth's population that humanity was likely alone in this corner of the galaxy. That assumption was now shattering before their eyes. "Alert all UNSC outposts," Carter said. "I want every defense satellite online and all civilian ships recalled to Earth orbit immediately." Within hours, Earth's governments had convened an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. The largest display in the chamber showed the alien fleet, now holding position just beyond Mars orbit. "They've transmitted a signal, sir," Communications Officer Peter Wilson announced as Carter joined the council via secure link. "It appears to be an invitation for parley." The council debated briefly before authorizing first contact. A delegation was hastily assembled, led by Secretary General Maria Alvarez, with Carter representing Earth's military. The meeting took place on neutral ground, an orbital platform hastily retrofitted for potentially diverse atmospheric needs. Carter watched as the alien shuttle docked, his hand resting instinctively on his sidearm. When the doors opened, Carter's training barely kept his expression neutral. The aliens were bipedal but clearly not human, standing nearly 8 feet tall with iridescent scales covering their bodies and 4 arms emerging from powerful torsos. "I am Ambassador Krulvor of the Galactic Imperial Hegemony," the lead alien announced through a translation device. "I bring greetings from Emperor Zaxnar, Supreme Ruler of 10,000 worlds." Secretary General Alvarez stepped forward. "We welcome you to Earth, Ambassador. We are honored to make first contact with your civilization." The ambassador's expression, if it could be called that, shifted subtly. "This is not first contact, human. This is a formality. Your species has been observed for centuries as part of standard imperial protocol." Carter felt a chill run down his spine. The Emperor has determined that Earth has reached sufficient technological advancement to be formally incorporated into the Imperial Protectorate system, Krulvor continued. "Your world will benefit from Imperial knowledge, protection, and trade, in exchange for reasonable resource tributes and acceptance of Imperial law." The humans exchanged glances. Alvarez maintained her diplomatic composure. "Ambassador, while we appreciate your offer, Earth is an independent world. We would be interested in establishing diplomatic relations as equals." "You misunderstand," Krulvor interrupted. "This is not a negotiation. The Emperor has made his decision. Preparation for Imperial integration will begin immediately." The meeting deteriorated rapidly from there. When the Earth delegation returned to the Security Council, the debate was heated but ultimately unanimous. 3 days later, Admiral Carter stood before a communication array, transmitting directly to the Imperial fleet. Behind him stood representatives from every major nation on Earth, presenting a unified front. "Ambassador Krulvor, I am instructed to deliver Earth's formal response to your proposal," Carter stated firmly. "Humanity declines Imperial integration. Earth and the solar system are sovereign human territory. We are willing to establish diplomatic relations with the Empire as independent equals, but we will not surrender our autonomy." He paused, then delivered the final message the Security Council had authorized. "Earth belongs to humans alone. Entry forbidden. Any attempt to force compliance will be met with resistance. This decision is non-negotiable." The Imperial ships remained motionless for several hours after the transmission. Then, without warning, They began to move, not toward Earth, but outward, retreating beyond the solar system. "They're leaving?" Ross asked incredulously. Carter shook his head. "No, Lieutenant. They're regrouping. This was just the beginning." Dr. Susan Miller peered through the electron microscope at the sample recovered from the Imperial shuttle's docking area. 3 weeks had passed since humanity's defiant message to the Galactic Empire, and Earth was using every minute to prepare. "Fascinating," she whispered. The cellular structure of the Imperial biological material was unlike anything in Earth's scientific records. The cell walls contained metallic compounds that seemed to enhance communication between cells at speeds impossible for human biology. "Any progress?" asked Daniel Wright, Earth Intelligence's chief analyst, as he entered the lab. "Their biology suggests they evolved on a high-gravity world with intense radiation," Susan explained, straightening up from her workstation. "That might explain their physical resilience and the extra limbs. But we're working with scraps here, skin cells, and trace materials. We need more to develop effective countermeasures." Across the solar system, Earth's military forces were mobilizing. The United Nations had authorized the largest unified defense initiative in human history. Every nation contributed resources to the Earth Defense Fleet, now under Admiral Carter's command. Meanwhile, 60 million kilometers from Earth, Imperial scientists were conducting their own assessment. The massive Imperial vessel Dominant will house the Empire's foremost xenobiologists and military strategists. "These humans are peculiar," noted Chief Scientist Vexmer, examining Earth's transmissions. "They lack unity in governance, yet presented a unified response. Their technology is primitive compared to Imperial standards, yet they rejected our offer without hesitation." General Drazkol, the Emperor's most decorated military commander, dismissed the scientists' observations. "Their defiance is meaningless. Their entire defense fleet consists of fewer than 50 combat-capable vessels. The smallest Imperial battle group could subjugate their planet in days." "Perhaps," Vexmer countered. "But why do they believe they can resist? What do they know that we don't?" Back on Earth, Captain Lisa Warren supervised the deployment of Earth's newest defense system. The quantum defense grid was experimental technology, developed after the discovery of faster-than-light travel. Theoretical until now, the system could detect and potentially disrupt the energy signatures of Imperial weapons. "Grid Node 12 coming online," reported her assistant. "We're at 60% coverage of Earth's orbital approaches." "Keep going," Lisa ordered. "We need full coverage before they return." In a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Daniel Wright sifted through intelligence gathered from the brief Imperial visit. His team had managed to hack into the Imperial shuttle's communication system during the diplomatic meeting, extracting fragments of data before being detected. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, studying the translated documents. The Empire's assessment classified Earth as a Type 3 resource world, with minimal resistance expected. Another document detailed extraction plans for Earth's water, rare minerals, and biological specimens. "They don't see us as equals," Daniel reported to the Security Council that evening. "They view Earth as a resource to be harvested. Their standard procedure is to eliminate indigenous resistance and establish extraction colonies." Admiral Carter received this news grimly. "Then we give them resistance beyond anything they've encountered before." While Earth prepared its visible defenses, another initiative proceeded in secret. 5 colony ships, stripped of all military markings and loaded with Earth's brightest minds and diverse genetic samples, departed silently from the far side of Luna. Their destinations: distant star systems unlikely to appear on Imperial charts. Remember, Carter had told the colony leaders, "If Earth falls, you are humanity's future. Hide, grow stronger, and one day return." 3 months after the initial contact, Imperial sensors detected a new fleet approaching Earth. Smaller than the first but heavily armed, the vessels moved with purpose. Imperial ships detected at the system boundary. Lisa announced to the Global Command, Configuration suggests a military force. Admiral Carter's voice remained steady as he addressed the combined Earth Defense Forces. This is what we've prepared for. They believe we'll be an easy conquest. Let's show them how wrong they are. As the Imperial ships accelerated toward Earth, humanity's first true interstellar war began. The Imperial warships entered the solar system with confident precision, their formation suggesting they anticipated minimal resistance. 27 vessels, each larger than Earth's biggest battleship, moved past the orbit of Neptune toward their target. All stations report ready. Admiral, Lieutenant William Clark announced on the bridge of the Defiant. The ship, hidden behind Mars along with the majority of Earth's fleet, waited as the enemy approached. Admiral Carter stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Let them come closer. We need them committed to their approach vector before we reveal our position. The lead Imperial vessel, identified as the Subjugator, broadcasted a message to Earth as it passed Jupiter's orbit. This is Commander Vraktor of the Imperial Adjustment Fleet. Your defiance is noted and rejected. Surrender immediately or face disciplinary action. No response was sent. Earth remained silent. They're ignoring standard Imperial protocol, Vraktor noted to his second-in-command. Most species beg for mercy at this stage. Primitives often fail to understand their situation, his officer replied. The Emperor's reports indicate these humans lack proper respect for superior civilizations. As the Imperial fleet approached Mars, Lieutenant Clark monitored an unusual energy reading from the enemy ships. He had been studying captured data from the initial encounter, focusing on their shield technology. Admiral, Clark said urgently, I'm detecting fluctuations in their shield harmonics. There's a pattern. Their defensive systems cycle every 43 seconds, with a half-second vulnerability during each reset. Carter nodded. Excellent work, Lieutenant. Transmit that data to all ships. We'll synchronize our attacks to exploit that weakness. When the Imperial fleet reached the orbit of Mars, Earth sprung its trap. The Defiant and 12 other battleships emerged from hiding, not in a direct assault, but executing a complex series of short-range FTL jumps that made them appear and disappear around the Imperial formation. What is this? Vraktor demanded as his tactical display showed human ships blinking in and out of sensor range. Lock weapons and fire. But the Earth ships never remained in one position long enough to be targeted effectively. Instead, they fired precisely timed salvos during those half-second shield vulnerabilities, then jumped away before Imperial weapons could respond. Meanwhile, on Earth, engineer Olivia Rodriguez activated the planetary defense system she had designed. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, massive generators came online, creating controlled gravitational distortions that reached into space. Gravity weapons online, she reported to Global Command, targeting Imperial engine signatures. The effect was immediate and devastating. 5 Imperial ships suddenly found themselves caught in localized gravity wells that distorted their flight paths, pulling them into collision courses with each other. Their advanced engines, designed for the stable physics of normal space, overloaded as they attempted to compensate. Impossible. Vraktor shouted as he watched the ships crash into each other. These primitives can't have gravitational manipulation technology. The battle continued for 6 hours. Earth forces never engaged directly, instead employing hit-and-run tactics that targeted the now-known weaknesses in Imperial systems. When Imperial ships adapted, Earth forces changed tactics again. Admiral Carter watched the battle unfold from the Defiance Bridge. They expected us to fight conventionally, to meet their fleet head-on where their superior firepower would prevail. They don't understand that humans have been perfecting asymmetric warfare against stronger opponents for thousands of years. By the battle's end, the Imperial fleet had lost 11 ships. The remainder, including the damaged Subjugator, retreated beyond the orbit of Pluto to regroup. We've bloodied their nose, Carter told his officers as the enemy withdrew. But this was just their first wave, a test of our capabilities. They'll be back, And next time, they'll be prepared for our tactics. Lieutenant Clark studied the sensor readings of the retreating ships. At least we've shown them we won't be an easy conquest. No, Carter agreed, his expression grim. Not easy, but they'll be back with a much larger force. We've bought time, not victory. Throughout Earth, people watched the news of this first victory with a mixture of celebration and dread, knowing the real war had only just begun. Emperor Zaxinar's inner sanctum vibrated with his rage. The massive ruler slammed two of his 4 fists onto the polished table, cracking its surface. Holographic displays showed the humiliating retreat of the Imperial Adjustment Fleet. Explain how primitive apes defeated Imperial warships, he demanded, his scales flushing dark purple with anger. Commander Vraktor knelt before his emperor, head bowed low. The humans employed unexpected tactics, Imperial Majesty. They have developed gravity manipulation technology and identified vulnerabilities in our shield cycling. Impossible, hissed General Drathmur, the Emperor's chief military advisor. Their technological level was assessed at pre-Imperial Stage 3. They shouldn't have gravity weapons for at least 200 cycles. Across the galaxy, Earth diplomat Catherine Bennett traveled on a merchant vessel belonging to the Traxian traders, a species neutral in galactic politics. Her mission: attempt to negotiate peace before the Empire struck again. The Imperials don't negotiate with species who resist, warned her Traxian guide, a 6-limbed being named Krell. In 3,000 years, they have never retreated from conquest. We have to try, Catherine replied. If there's even a chance to avoid all-out war, we must take it. Back on Earth, Dr. Susan Miller's team worked feverishly to understand the captured Imperial technology. The wreckage of 2 Imperial fighters had been recovered from Mars orbit, providing invaluable insights. Their neural interfaces are generations beyond ours, Susan explained to Admiral Carter, pointing to the exposed control systems. But their biological components give me an idea. If we can develop targeted electromagnetic pulses that disrupt these neural linkages, we might be able to disable their ships without destroying them. Carter nodded. How soon? 2 weeks, if we're lucky. Meanwhile, Earth intelligence launched an unprecedented disinformation campaign. Dangle Wright oversaw the operation from a bunker beneath Geneva. His team had hacked into abandoned Imperial communication arrays left in the outer solar system. Send the next package, he ordered. False reports about Earth's defenses, misleading fleet positions, and fabricated weapons capabilities flooded the Imperial information networks. Some reports claimed Earth had ancient weapons of mass destruction buried beneath the surface. Others suggested hidden alliances with unknown alien species. The Empire thrives on perfect information, Daniel explained to the Security Council. By flooding their networks with contradictions, we force them to question every piece of intelligence about Earth. In deep space, Captain Lisa Warren commanded the stealth ship Phantom on a desperate mission. The experimental vessel, equipped with advanced cloaking technology, slipped through the front lines of the gathering Imperial Armada. We're picking up massive fleet movements, Lisa reported back to Earth. I count at least 300 capital ships, possibly more. They're mobilizing for a full invasion. Her ship's secondary mission was even more daring. Plant quantum beacons on Imperial vessels to track their movements and potentially disrupt their coordination during battle. Beacon placement complete on Target 7, her tactical officer whispered as the Phantom drifted silently past a massive Imperial dreadnought. 9 more to go. On the Imperial throne world, Emperor Zaxinar gathered his war council. The chamber, filled with the Empire's highest military commanders, buzzed with unusual tension. These humans have become a problem, the Emperor declared. Their resistance threatens Imperial prestige. If other subject worlds see that defiance is possible, our entire dominion could unravel. General Drathmur stepped forward. Imperial Majesty, I recommend committing the Third Fleet in its entirety. Overwhelm their defenses with numbers. No more testing, full conquest. Approved, Zaxinar said without hesitation. But I want Earth taken intact. Its resources belong to the Empire, and I want specimens of these humans for study. Their adaptability might be useful to Imperial science. As the Imperial fleet assembled for the main assault, Catherine Bennett's diplomatic mission reached the neutral space station, where Imperial representatives had agreed to meet. Her hopes for peaceful resolution faded as she entered the chamber to find not diplomats, but Imperial security forces waiting. "Human," their leader announced, "your presence is required on the Imperial capital. The Emperor wishes to study a specimen who believes defiance is a reasonable choice." Catherine's capture would become the spark for the next, more devastating phase of the war. Admiral Carter watched the tactical display with unwavering focus as thousands of red dots representing Imperial warships entered the solar system. This was no longer a probing force or showing of strength. This was the full might of the Galactic Empire's Third Fleet, committed to Earth's conquest. "All defense platforms at maximum readiness," he ordered. "Activate the quantum grid." Around Earth and its moon, hundreds of defense satellites and platforms powered up. The technology, refined since the first encounter, created an invisible web of quantum-entangled particles that could detect and potentially disrupt Imperial targeting systems. "They're forming attack groups," reported Lieutenant Clark. 5 main thrusts, with heavy warships at the center of each formation. Earth had prepared for this moment. Every nation had contributed to the defense, setting aside centuries of conflict to face an existential threat. Civilian manufacturing had been converted to military production, and millions of volunteers had joined Earth's armed forces. Major Gregory Taylor led a briefing for his Space Marine unit aboard the assault carrier Valiant. His soldiers were Earth's boarding specialists, trained to infiltrate and capture Imperial vessels. "Intelligence suggests their capital ships have centralized command nodes," he explained, pointing to holographic schematics. "Our mission is to board the command vessel of Attack Group 3 and disable it from within." The soldiers, men and women from dozens of nations, checked their powered armor and weapons. They knew the survival rate for such missions was estimated at less than 30%. As the Imperial fleet approached Mars, Earth launched its first countermeasure. Dr. Susan Miller's team had developed biological disruption devices specifically tailored to Imperial physiology based on samples collected from previous encounters. "Bioweapon deployment confirmed," Susan announced from her laboratory. "Impact in 30 seconds." The weapons weren't lethal. Earth had decided against genocide, but the aerosol compounds, delivered by stealth drones, targeted the specialized respiratory systems of Imperial crews. Within minutes, entire sections of Imperial ships reported crew incapacitation. "Biological attack detected," screamed an Imperial commander. "Seal all ventilation systems." But the damage was already done. Nearly 20% of Imperial forces were temporarily disabled, creating gaps in their carefully planned formation. Earth's defense fleet, though outnumbered 10-1, moved to exploit these weaknesses. Using the short-range FTL jump tactics they had perfected, Earth vessels appeared inside Imperial formations, fired precisely at vulnerable points, and disappeared before enemy weapons could lock on. Engineer Olivia Rodriguez monitored the improved gravity weapons from her command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. The technology had been refined to create targeted gravitational shears that could tear apart the molecular bonds of Imperial hull materials. "Gravity Weapon 3, targeting Dreadnought in Sector 4, she ordered. Her team watched as the massive Imperial vessel literally began to come apart at the seams, its structure unable to withstand the localized distortions in spacetime. In orbit, Major Taylor's team launched their assault. 50 small, stealth pods ejected from the Valiant, each carrying 4 Marines. Using the chaos of the main battle as cover, they approached the Imperial command ship in inevitable conquest. "Breach point secured," Taylor reported as his team cut through the outer hull. Entering the vessel now. Inside, they faced resistance from Imperial security forces, 8-foot-tall warriors with advanced energy weapons and redundant biological systems. The close-quarters combat was brutal and bloody. On Earth, civilians watched the battle through public broadcasts. Defense shelters were filled to capacity as Imperial fighters occasionally broke through to attack surface targets. Doctors and nurses treated casualties while factories continued producing ammunition and replacement parts. Admiral Carter knew Earth couldn't win a prolonged engagement. Despite their innovative tactics and technologies, the sheer numbers of the Imperial fleet would eventually overwhelm them. "We need to hold out for 18 more hours," he told his command staff. "That's when Phase 2 begins." No one asked what Phase 2 entailed. The information was compartmentalized for security. But as the battle raged across the solar system, with losses mounting on both sides, the desperation of Earth's situation became increasingly clear. The Empire had expected swift victory. Instead, they found themselves in the costliest conquest attempt in their 10,000-year history. The capture of Earth diplomat Catherine Bennett proved to be the Empire's greatest mistake. While imprisoned aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion, she gained crucial intelligence that would change the course of the war. The Empire has been conquering species for over 12,000 years. She reported through a quantum-encrypted channel that Earth intelligence had established. They've subjugated over 800 sapient species. Many are waiting for an opportunity to rebel. Daniel Wright received this transmission in the underground command center. "Can we make contact with these other species?" "Several of their representatives are being held in the same detention block," Catherine replied. "I've already begun discussions." Admiral Carter immediately recognized the strategic opportunity. "If we can coordinate with other oppressed species, we might stand a chance against the Empire's full might." While the battle for Earth continued, Captain Lisa Warren received new orders. Her stealth ship Phantom, still operating behind enemy lines, would attempt the most daring mission yet. "Your objective is to penetrate the Imperial communication hub at Nexus Station," Carter told her. "Once there, broadcast evidence of Earth's resistance to all subjugated worlds. Show them the Empire can be fought." Lisa studied the mission parameters with a grim expression. "This is likely a one-way trip, Admiral." "I know," Carter replied softly. "That's why I'm asking for volunteers only." Every crew member of the Phantom chose to remain aboard. Meanwhile, engineer Olivia Rodriguez had completed her most ambitious project yet, a device capable of disrupting the Empire's faster-than-light travel technology. The theory had come from analyzing captured Imperial engines. "Their FTL system relies on a specific subspace frequency," she explained to Earth's Unified Scientific Council. "If we can generate a cascading disruption field at that exact frequency, we could potentially disable their entire fleet's ability to travel faster than light, effectively stranding them in our solar system," a council member observed. "Exactly," Olivia nodded. "Where we can fight them on our terms." The device, nicknamed Lockdown by its development team, required enormous power. A special deployment vessel was constructed, carrying the largest fusion reactors Earth could build. On the 18th hour of the battle, just as Earth's defenses began to falter under the relentless Imperial assault, Admiral Carter gave the order. "Execute Phase 2. 3 events happened simultaneously. First, the Phantom reached Nexus Station, forcibly docking and overriding its communication systems. Lisa Warren personally uploaded visual records of Earth's successful resistance, along with a simple message: the Empire is not invincible. Join us. Second, Major Taylor's team, having fought their way to the command center of the inevitable conquest, seized control of its weapons systems and began firing on other Imperial vessels, causing confusion in the enemy fleet. Third, the lockdown device activated. A ripple of energy expanded from Earth at nearly the speed of light, washing over the Imperial fleet. Ship after ship reported drive failures as their FTL systems went offline. On the Imperial throne world, Emperor Zaxonar received increasingly disturbing reports. Not only was the Earth campaign faltering, but rebellions had suddenly erupted on 17 previously pacified worlds. "Impossible," he roared. "How could these primitives coordinate such actions?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Vex Mur, the Imperial chief scientist, entered the throne room despite the danger of approaching the enraged Emperor. "Your Majesty, I believe we fundamentally misunderstood humans," he said cautiously. "Our studies show they possess an unusual psychological trait. They become more unified and innovative when threatened. Unlike other species that surrender when facing superior force, humans become more dangerous. Are you suggesting we retreat?" Zaxnar asked incredulously. "I am suggesting we reevaluate our approach before the rebellion spreads further," Vex Mur replied. "These humans have already shared their defensive technologies with 11 former subject worlds. In the solar system, the tide had turned. With Imperial FTL capabilities disabled and rebellions drawing away reinforcements, Earth forces began systematically isolating and neutralizing enemy vessels. Admiral Carter received the most surprising news during this phase. "Sir, we're detecting non-human ships entering the system, but they're attacking the Imperial forces, not us." The first allies from former Imperial worlds had arrived, drawn by the promise that resistance was possible. Earth was no longer fighting alone. 6 months after the Empire's failed invasion, representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species gathered in a hastily constructed space station orbiting Earth. The cavernous meeting chamber had been designed to accommodate beings of widely varying physiologies, from the methane-breathing crawl to the silicon-based Lithosians. Admiral John Carter entered the chamber alongside Catherine Bennett, who had been rescued during the final battle. The room fell silent as they took their positions at the circular table. "On behalf of Earth, I welcome you all," Carter began. "Just half a year ago, most of us didn't know the others existed. Today, we stand together as free worlds. The Empire had not fallen completely. Its territories were too vast for that, but it had fractured significantly. Over 200 planets had declared independence, forming various alliances and coalitions. The question before us is simple but critical," said Trelkav, a representative of the aquatic Marinian species. "How do we ensure our continued freedom? The Empire will rebuild and return." Catherine stepped forward. "That's why we've proposed the Galactic Coalition of Free Worlds. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, but a mutual defense agreement among equals." The discussions lasted for days. Some species, oppressed for millennia, were eager for revenge. Others feared that creating a new power block would simply replace one empire with another. "Earth's position remains firm," Carter stated during a particularly heated debate. "We will share our defensive technologies with all coalition members, but we will not participate in unprovoked aggression against Imperial remnants. Our goal is freedom, not conquest." This philosophy, dubbed the Earth Doctrine by other species, became the foundation of the Coalition Charter. Member worlds would maintain their sovereignty while contributing to collective defense. Meanwhile, on Earth, the planet was healing from the war. Cities damaged during Imperial bombardments were being rebuilt. Dr. Susan Miller led a new scientific exchange program, sharing medical knowledge with alien species while learning their biological sciences. Their regenerative techniques could revolutionize human medicine, she explained to a panel of Earth doctors. "And our understanding of neurochemistry has already helped the Viridians treat a degenerative condition that plagued their species for centuries." Engineer Olivia Rodriguez had become the head of Earth's new interstellar technology division. The lockdown device had been refined into a defensive system that could be deployed to protect coalition worlds from Imperial incursions. "We've adapted it to create safe zones where FTL travel follows specific regulations," she told a group of visiting engineers from 7 different species. "This prevents surprise attacks while allowing legitimate trade and travel." Earth maintained its original stance toward potential threats, a policy now famous throughout the galaxy. Entry forbidden to hostile forces. The phrase had become something of a galactic proverb, shorthand for unwavering determination against overwhelming odds. Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of the new Earth Defense Headquarters, watching ships from a dozen worlds moving through the solar system. Some carried diplomats, others traders, and still others scientists engaged in collaborative research. Did you ever imagine this outcome when you delivered our first refusal to the Empire? Catherine asked, joining him at the viewport. Carter shook his head. I expected us to fight to the last. I never thought our defiance would inspire a galactic revolution. The most significant change was humanity's place in the wider galaxy. Once isolated and unaware of interstellar politics, Earth had become a respected founding member of the new cosmic order. Human adaptability, creativity, and determination had earned them a reputation that spread even to worlds they had never contacted. Beware the humans of Earth. They do not submit, went a saying among spacefaring species. It was spoken sometimes with fear, sometimes with admiration, but always with respect. In the imperial capital, now controlling less than half its former territory, Emperor Zaxanar received the coalition's formal declaration. It established boundaries and terms for peaceful coexistence, backed by the combined strength of dozens of formerly conquered worlds. The final paragraph, which historians would later cite as the beginning of a new galactic age, read simply, "The era of imperial conquest is over. The era of cooperation has begun. All species deserve self-determination. All homeworlds are sovereign. This principle is non-negotiable." It was signed, "The Free Worlds Coalition, founded on Earth."